Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live. I'm your host, Kieran, a freelance graphic designer based in London. And today is part 2 of our Adobe Live session with the awesome YouTuber, course creator, and graphic designer, Lisa Siefert. Lisa, how are you doing today?
Great. How about you?
I'm good. I'm excited for our second day. It's gone so quick, right? Much time.
Yeah, we kind of left people hanging yesterday.
Well, we can bring it right back and it's all good. We'll revert it back. But yeah, no, thank you everyone for joining. Just a few things to kick off. If you missed the last set of challenges, no worries, we've got you covered. You can check out Photoshop with Daily Creative Challenge with our wonderful Voodoo Val every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And always, we love to see your comments. So if you're on YouTube, pop over and Behance, and that way I can share your comments directly with Lisa while she's designing. And I can see we've got a few people coming in, which is great. We've got, hi, Steve. Hi, Kevin. Nika's here, Robert, and a few bits and bobs. So yeah, welcome guys and ladies. If it's your first time to Adobe, welcome. And we've got our spotlight today as well, which is great. So definitely stay tuned for that one. That's gonna be a good one. So as usual, don't forget to submit your recommendations for our creative spotlight, which you can catch up on the tab in the chat. So let's get into it. So Lisa, first of all, for those who might not have joined our last session, would you like to tell people about who you are and what you're about?
Sure. I am a graphic designer. I'm completely self-taught. I always like to say that because I know on this channel and everywhere you go, you meet everyone who's super uber educated, like professionally, and they have like a master's in Adobe InDesign, right? And you don't need that. It's a tough tool, but you can teach yourself if that's something you want to do. I totally just woke up one day and I was like, I think I just want to use Adobe InDesign because it looks fun.
You had like the inner belief of just like, I want to do this. Let's just make it happen. Right?
Yeah. I mean, you can't do that for everything like medical school or stuff like that, but
Adobe InDesign. And that's the beauty as well with all of our guests today. You know, some people might have, their first time joining. So, and if it's not, then obviously, you might have been there a few times, which is great. But if it is your first time, a massive welcome. And this is the whole part of experimenting and exploring and seeing some designs. So Lisa, just as a recap for those who were perhaps not in the first one, would you tell people what we were doing yesterday and then what we'll be working on for today for our session?
Sure. So I'll actually show you. So we're creating a digital planner. And before I show you really quick, because I got a couple messages in my inbox from people that were here yesterday, you want to use, they were asking what a digital planner is. So it's anything on your iPad or your tablet where it does annotation, which means it can use a stylus, whether that's an Apple Pencil or that's a tablet stylus or something else where you can write text in just like it's paper and you can click around just like it's a book. So, Paper 53, Notability, Good Notes, all of those things work to open up what we're going to be creating today. So
amazing. Awesome. Just those answers to make sure those out there. So just those sort of answers for anyone, again, sort of questions, but it's great to sort of keep it on the wrap so we all know. So great.
Yeah, because sometimes I forget. Not everybody knows. Just like it's a digital planner, don't you? You should just know. All right. So yesterday we were inside of Photoshop and we created everything. Basically, you could create this inside of Adobe InDesign as well. I just find it easier to use Photoshop. I like it. It's faster for me. But again, if you're a purist, you could create all of these in InDesign. So all we did is we created a background mock-up that you see here. So these are our tabs at the top that we'll be using later. This is supposed to represent January, February, March, April, et cetera, down to December. I didn't actually put the letters in here because InDesign is better for typography. And when you bring, sometimes when you bring letters into InDesign from Photoshop, they don't look like you want them to, and then it's hard to change them. So I don't do that.
That's a very good point. That you always find, I guess, with different programs, like you always start to learn what can do what in terms of capabilities and again, that's the whole experiment of knowing like what works well. So good shout on that point. Definitely.
Yeah, and Illustrator works even better if you want to get really, really exact with your typography. So, awesome. So here we are in InDesign. This looks like a blank piece of paper, but which it is. However, we started creating some master pages. So we took all those images that we created yesterday. We made it through home, goals, annual, white pages, we created a background, and that's pretty much it. So that's where we left off. And then today, just to give you a quick recap, we're going to finish putting all the master pages in here. And then next, we're going to create the letters that you want, January, February, March, etc. And then we're going to actually create the covers, the front and the back cover. I'm going to show you, the big question yesterday was, how do you get it so that the links are clickable inside of Adobe? And I'll show you how to do that next. And then we'll create a monthly layout. And if we have time, we'll do an annual layout.
Amazing. That is a good spread of exciting things to do. Yeah. And I can see as well in the chat, it's bubbling, which is great. So, and also I can see a lot of birthday emojis, and I think it's one of Anika, who's one of our hosts and lives as well. So happy birthday, Anika, just to get it out there. And again, a lot of people just joined us. So welcome Gareth, welcome Viola, Yuma, and obviously you've got the wonderful Voodoo Val as well, keeping things smooth and going. So we've got a nice audience with us today. So definitely excited to see what we've come up with today.
Nice. All right. So yesterday we put everything into a folder called background JPEGs. And these we're just going to go ahead and plop over into Adobe InDesign. It's just going to slide over like that. So, slide
into the DM, into the InDesign.
It's going to slide in. All right. So if you can't see what I'm seeing, just to get everybody on the same page, you make sure when you open up Adobe InDesign, if you go to Window and you go to Workspace, make sure Essentials Classic is checked if you want to see the same thing that I'm seeing. Also, we're going to work a lot with this Pages panel. It should show up on your right, but depending on how you use the application last, it may not be there. So same thing, just go to Window, make sure Pages is selected. The other thing too, you should remember, this happened to somebody else too. If you open up somebody else's file and they have some different settings going on, that can affect your settings the next time you open it, in case you're confused. That's happened to me before. I'm like, I know I didn't do this. So that happens. All right.
InDesign is one of those ones. Do you ever find as well, Lisa, InDesign is, especially when you package files as well, there's so many different layers, not much layers, but a lot of intricate stuff if you're taking over someone else's, say, InDesign job. They have their own way of operating. So InDesign's a bit of a puzzle when it comes to that.
Yeah, that is painful. Okay, so we're going to move. So if you've never seen Pages panel, here on the top, there's this imaginary line. So when you hover over it, you can make it bigger or smaller on the top or the bottom. But the top are master pages. I always try to tell people, think of that as Microsoft Word. When you see headers and footers, it's just a background that will repeat for you. And then here at the bottom are your actual real pages. Now, these pages here, so a setting we had yesterday, I just want to make sure you have these same settings, because when we get into that section, it won't work. If you go up here to InDesign at the top and you go to preferences, and you can choose any of these, you'll see the whole menu again. Just make sure page numbering, you have section numbering, not absolute numbering. Otherwise, this will absolutely not work. So
the tricks of experimenting, right? We've actually got some good questions as well, Lisa, from the chat, which relates quite nicely to. We've got a great question actually from two people. So from Kevin, he's firstly said, do you prefer using PSD files over PNG or EPS files? I guess that depends on when you're adding in your graphics or designs.
I personally never use EPS files. I only use PNG. I never even use PNG files. I only use JPEG files just because they're smaller. So we were talking about this yesterday. So I have a supercomputer now, right? I have the Mac Pro, and it has, I loaded it up. However, before that, I did not have the Mac Pro. And so I needed as much space as I could have in memory. So I always pull in JPEGs, never the Photoshop. I know it makes it easier. We were talking about this. You were saying you can edit stuff and it will automatically update it in Photoshop, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good question actually, because it's those ones where you start to realize what file format works best depending on what program. So say for example, with an EPS, which Kevin just said, if you're working say Illustrator in a logo and you decide to bring it in, you can edit with and you can go back into that Illustrator file. And same again with PSD files, depending on what you're doing. So I think for us, we use, like you said, JPEGs, right? Primarily
JPEGs, yeah.
Yesterday, but yeah, it depends on, I guess, on the file format. But and again, those are the kind of good questions to really good to know, because I guess if you're starting out in design and even using the programs, you might not necessarily know what format works for which program yet. But again, you learn, you educate, and you experiment with tutorials. So
I think it's too expertise. Like I am not at all comfortable in Illustrator. I never use it. So because of that, I never use EPS files.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun, Lisa. You got to give it experiment, especially when you got the tablet as well. Because I noticed you got the tablet pen. That is an awesome thing, especially like creating logos or illustrations. But yeah, that's a fun one to geek out with for sure.
Yeah,
we've got a really good question as well.
Oh, go ahead.
I love a good question as well from Rick. He's actually said, so he missed out, and again, this is quite good for those who missed out yesterday's session. He said he's missed out on the part where these designs became digital. Can you please place those links, tools you mentioned within the planner? So I guess obviously talking about where Photoshop, what we've done, obviously went to Adobe Stock. So maybe should we talk about that a little bit so that they have an understanding of
sure.
where you
Do you want me to
graphics
show them what a digital planner looks like? Maybe that'll help.
Yeah.
Right. Just go back to the basics.
Yeah. Again, for those of you who might have just joined in perhaps for today's session, that we can sort of bring up to date. And then,
so the best place, first of all, once you're done and you want to make money from this, the best place to sell your digital planner is here on Etsy. So this is all it is. This woman has some cute mock-ups, but basically it looks like a real planner, but you use your iPad, your Apple Pencil, like I said, or stylus to kind of click around. You can write stuff in there. You can put stickers inside of there. You can put, pictures in there. You can easily delete stuff and rewrite it. So this is basically what we're creating today. Brilliant. Does that help answer the question, do you think?
I think. Thank you very much for that answer. So awesome. And again, we looked at Adobe Stock and we looked at different variants where we can get some imagery. So yeah, I mean, definitely, again, if you want a bit more information, that, tune in for our part 1, which we had yesterday. But yeah, today we're in the real thick of it now, which is awesome. So welcome.
Yeah. And when we did the stock images for searches, I didn't go into like page 89 or something. We picked some like images from like pages 1, 2, and 3 from the top most popular ones. So you should be able to find them pretty easily, I think. Right?
I'm just going to put it out there. I did say a happy birthday to Anika, but it's also Brian's birthday as well, if I'm correct in saying that.
Wow.
So Gareth, I do apologize. So happy birthday to Gareth and Anika. So there we go. Thank you for joining us on obviously your birthdays as well. So it's extra special, Lisa.
Yeah.
Your
more
session.
People, you know what I'm thinking? It's like yesterday, there are more people who have summer birthdays who maybe didn't get cupcakes during the school year.
True. That is so true. I remember. Brilliant. Amazing.
That's the real tragedy. All right. Let's go back. What were we doing? Okay. So all we're going to do is fill up our pages. So we left off. So here's the rationale. Do you remember we did A, B, C, D, E, and then we're going to start here with January. Now, January, we're going to kind of change the numbering, the nomenclature over to ones. So there's a couple different ways you could do file place, which kind of takes forever. So instead, what you could do is you could just drag and drop with your loaded cursor over here. I just line my cursor up to the top left and I double click. It just kind of goes in the right place. I don't know if it always does that, but it usually does that for me. So now over here, we're going to rename this before we forget, because trust me, if you just start loading a bunch of pages, all of a sudden on the 8th page, you're going to be like, is this June? Is this July? I don't know what it is.
Mind blank, right?
Right. So to rename these, you just right click on the master page and you click on master options. And the prefix is going to be 1. And the name of this is going to be January. So very, very simple. And then to add a new page, we're just going to create a new page. And then we are going to go ahead and drag and drop February. And right click, master options to February.
And just a message for our obviously awesome audience. Any questions that you have for Lisa, whether it's technical, or even just about, her experience and how she got into this business, please, but obviously put it in the Behance chat, and obviously I'll share that directly with Lisa while she's designing. So yeah, welcome guys and ladies, and good to see you all.
That's so funny. I always say Behance until you said Behance today.
Until you heard the British lingo.
Right.
Like, tomato. Yeah.
It sounds fancier.
I'm gonna say potato, but no one says potato, right? There we go. I've got a few questions actually for you, Lisa. Just again,
Sure.
I was kind of thinking about this today. So like, obviously you mentioned that you were sort of self-taught with these programs that you were working on like today. You did this alongside other jobs. Were you have a schedule in mind in terms of when you planned for yourself teach, or was it more when you had free time? Or I really like asking the planner, did you plan? It's like a sense of irony there, but did you have like a schedule to how you had things in motion?
It's funny you say that. I actually, because I know a lot of people, I completely disagree with this philosophy that you should have a side hustle and then wait till it builds up money till you start going. Because I need to like fully concentrate on things to like get them going. So I stayed in corporate America until I quit. And I saved up 4 years of salary. I realize that's extreme. I know some people just save up a year, but I didn't want to be pressured because I know, it does usually some people, there are some overnight stories where they're like, oh my God, I was homeless and, I couldn't feed my 4 children. And then I discovered, how to sell passive products online. And now I'm a millionaire. I don't know if I believe those stories, but more importantly, I just knew it takes some time, right? Like I think those stories, those overnight successes are one and far between. So it took me, to be totally honest, it took me a year to really learn InDesign where I could actually charge anybody for anything. And then I would say once I started building up my passive income library, it took me about 2 years to break even. And then it was only about the 2.5 or 3 year mark until I was at 6 figures. So
nice. Do you think a sense of confidence as well? Because again, with these programs, it can, I guess for a lot of our audience as well, they could be on different levels. So whether they're just starting out or they know Adobe, inside out. Sometimes, I always find, even for me personally as a designer, like it's a sense of confidence with the programs because it could feel quite intimidating, perhaps at a first glance. But I guess the more you practice and experiment, second nature sort of comes into it, maybe.
I guess it depends on what your goal is, right? Like, so I just knew I wanted to create my own products, but if you want to get proficient enough to interview for a job, then you better be pretty good. Cause I used to do human resources. And so for the graphic designers, I don't know who made these tests up, but people would score really low. So the test is like timed and it'll ask you something crazy and it'll watch what buttons you click and stuff. And then it'll give me the HR person a score. And even people who had masters, I was like, you're out of here, right? Like you didn't, they were like, I'm like, you didn't click the right combination. I don't know how those things work. So, so if you want a job, it's much different, I think, of a level of learning InDesign than it probably is if you wanted to just make designs, like you said, doing logos for people.
Yeah, I get that. And to be fair, that's the beauty again with Adobe Live. What we're working on today, obviously, is that this channel is very much for anyone really, in terms of if you're just starting out or you're just learning. And again, we've got so much content on the Adobe hemisphere, whether it's the creative challenges or tutorials you can watch. So yeah, definitely if it's your first time, obviously massive welcome. And if you're tuning in, you're kind of learning about the process, but definitely check out more stuff. Even when we're closed and done for the night, you can still follow up on a lot more tutorials like Lisa's one that you saw yesterday. So yeah, definitely engage. And I'm excited to sort of see your designs, Lisa, pop out. It's gonna be great.
How long did it take you to learn InDesign?
I feel like I'm still learning. It's weird. It doesn't feel like there's a line that's like, cool, I've completed it. It's just, I've gotten better. I mean, I studied this at uni, 8 years ago. And InDesign is probably my favorite one, if I'm honest, because I work mainly in print. So InDesign and Illustrator's fun. But yeah, InDesign is one of those ones where you can just keep finding so many different ways of just learning different things. And like you said yesterday, shortcuts, right? That was where we kind of touched on this yesterday. And obviously, when you get more comfortable with shortcuts, it makes life a lot easier. But yeah, I try and do a few, especially because obviously deadlines, right? You have to kind of keep on track of that. So shortcuts can certainly save your life. I always find.
Well, also, I think it's kind of like when you watch someone playing the piano, if they know shortcuts, it's just like their hands are moving at like 1,000 miles an hour.
True. It's like a Jim Carrey, Bruce Almighty sort of moment, isn't it? Where he's just like,
that Jeff.
Super fast. Yeah. We got a good question actually we got Joe from Italy. Welcome. So Joe said, sorry for my English. I have a question. Using the format also for recipe books on the side of the month pudding letter. I'm not sure what you mean. Perhaps are you talking about in the idea of creating a recipe book? Maybe perhaps you can explain again what you mean, and then I can do that. But obviously in our case, we're just creating a planner simply for the months. That's correct, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, but that was the only client work I've ever done. I did create a recipe book. So if you have a recipe book question, I might know the answer.
That was completely niche, but there we go. It's all good. That is an awesome one. Cool. And again, yeah, if you're obviously, like I say, if you're joining, especially if you're on YouTube, pop over and we can really get those comments directly to Lisa. I'm sure she'd love to answer them while she's designing. So welcome.
All right, this is the last one, the 13, the unlucky number. So 13, end of year. And this is only if you need it. So you may not need this particular tab. All right. Okay, so now we're going to make a cover. We're going to switch over. We can go to, so what I will save. I know people are probably panicking.
There we go. That was a hot topic yesterday, wasn't it? In the chat.
Yeah,
but that is very important though. We did say, obviously it saves, there's an irony of saving, but the idea of, obviously saving your work, peace of mind, right? We had some good comments yesterday of stories based on people who didn't save.
So we're going to go to File, New Document. So I did the math ahead of time. I'm not good with on-the-spot math. So it's 668 wide by 960 tall. Now this one, you're going to make a portrait. Yesterday we did landscape. You don't need facing pages. You don't really need margins. We'll put 36 in here because I know people seem to panic when they don't have a margin.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Okay. But since we're not printing and you don't have to worry about bleed or anything else, if you forget, it's not a big deal. Also, another thing to think about too is like this current file, before I open this one, all of your margins are not really going to work because these are fake pages inside fake floating areas. So when I put margins onto this page, it might coincide with the thing we've created in Photoshop. It might not, depending on where things have laid and what you're going to do for your layout. But okay, so I'm going to leave all of these 0 and I'm just going to say create. Okay.
That was a good point you mentioned. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you mentioned that, obviously this is just so everyone's aware in the chat, obviously a digital book. So there are some quite nice things where when it's not print, I guess it's maybe an easier way, but you don't have to, obviously you have bleeds and certain things for print, for production, you might keep in mind. But when it's digital, one thing I've found when you're doing digital work is that you can create as many pages as you want and not have to worry about the binding or divide by 4 because it's just like, it's just digital, it's all good. We can make it work. So that's always nice to have like a differentiation between the print and digital side of things.
That's true. All right, so we're going to actually use a frame tool, I think. We'll test it out. You can make a plain box cover. So the cover is really just up to you. So you'll notice when we were looking inside of Etsy, 99% of everything that you saw is the interior. Do I still have that up? Is the interior. No one's really selling you on the cover, right? So when you're selling a physical planner, the cover is like 90% of the sale. When you're doing a digital planner, the interior is 90% of what's going to sway people to purchase or not purchase your planner. So I guess my point is, it's not a big deal if this is not the world's greatest, most spectacular, most wonderful cover, right? They may never even see it until after they purchase it. So, so we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to guesstimate on where I want this to be. I think that looks okay.
I love that word guesstimate, by the way. I've never heard that one before. You just dropped that in there really slyly, but that was like a strong word of the day.
Do that all the time. All right. So for some different cover options, I picked out some things that I think might match. This is kind of a standard, the swirls with the gold. There's this, which has a little bit more white space for you to put some text. This is more of a dark masculine one, depending on your audience. And this is just kind of a generic sort of pattern in the back. So again, all of these could work. What I like to do sometimes is I'll just play around and I'll try different ones out, not try different ones out. So like, let's start with this first gold swirl one. If I put it over here.
A little, and again, this is definitely, obviously every designer has their own sort of ways of working, but a little trick, when you press Command D, I'm hoping getting that right, that's place. So you can also place it directly in, you can drag and drop obviously as well, but place is always quite a nice one as well to use. Just a little fun fact.
We'll try that next.
There we go.
Okay.
That's like one of 5 things I know. That's it.
He knows a ton of stuff.
6 things. Go for it.
All right. So here, I think, hold on. I looked up a shortcut. Control Command Option M. It worked.
Boom, there we go. So we're learning shortcuts on the go.
Yeah,
I love that.
I never use shortcuts. Okay, so if you don't have the shortcut, another way to get here to the Dropbox is you could just go, here's how I always used to do it, Object, Effects, and then Drop Shadow. In case you don't remember the shortcut, which We've gone
old school. It's fine. We can go old school and just, yeah.
So over here, this drop shadow is kind of like trying to make this cover look realish if we want. So you can play around with how much shadow you want. And you might want a little more on the cover than we did on the tabs the other day, just because it is, it's supposed to be a cover. But again, it's up to you. The other thing you want to do too is you want to take that blue coil that we created the other day. And this is a side coil, which is different from the center coil. So this one makes it look like your coil is on the side of that planner. All right. So I can already see it's a little too far to the left. And this can come over here. So, you know, just kind of eyeball it and kind of guess. If you hit this center one, we can make this a little longer.
By the way, I love that. That cover is awesome. Like, I'm just looking at the colors and the sort of variants of the sort of, you know, motions. It's awesome. There's a lot happening.
You like this one?
I do. I mean, there's a few other favorites, but yeah.
The only thing to keep in mind in here is if you want to put text in here, you're probably going to have to put a box on top. Otherwise, it'll be illegible unless you put your text in this tiny area up here. So you'd have to put this here, and then you could put whatever text you want, fabulous planner or whatever you want to call it. And you could just
a little, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
As just a little tip as well, what you can on Photoshop, like this is where the whole experimenting and playing around definitely comes into it. And you can do little things where you can multiply, or you can kind of like darken parts. So then when you bring it into your InDesign, it allows you to add text on top. So again, that's more of a, you know, experimenting and playing around. But there's a lot of, and this is kind of going back to when we spoke about, you know, different programs and how they kind of interlink with one another. But yeah, that's always one to kind of like to play around with, which is cool.
Yeah. That's a great point. You could have created a gradient over here to kind of white it out, and then you could see maybe a little more text on top. So is this pretty? Probably not. So the other thing too is sometimes when I see these text boxes, it's hard for me to visualize things. If you just go to view, overprint preview, they'll just go away. So this could be possibly your cover. We could try some other things. We could try another one. We could try maybe one that was already built for text. I think it was this one.
Just a quick question. I mean, that's a lovely one as well. That's quite nice, sort of empty space in the middle. But like do you have like a process with fonts? Because fonts is one of those ones like a kid in a candy shop, right? Where there's so much options to choose from. Do you have a sort of set of fonts that you kind of go to, or ones that you're like your favorites?
Not really. I usually have fonts that are my favorites at the moment. I probably spent thousands, possibly more, tens of thousands on fonts because I like can't stop buying them. And then you look at your fonts and you're like, those last 50 fonts I bought all kind of look exactly the same.
The variants of the same. I love that.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just repurchased the same fonts.
That is like, that's like every designer's maybe, it's like curse or like downfall, where there's just so many options to choose from and trying to find the right font. It'd be great even for the chat as well, for those tuning in, you know, have you got a go-to font, a favorite kind of font that you tend to use? You know, put it in the chat, and you know, there's probably some similarities of what you chose to what Lisa's using now. So yeah, get your favorite fonts in the chat and I'll share them with Lisa.
Right. So this is Moonstone. This is a premium font that I purchased. I usually, you know, if you go through Adobe Typekit, they actually have a lot of really great fonts, and they seem to keep adding more and more. In fact, I am embarrassed to admit I have actually purchased fonts that were free to me inside of Adobe Typekit because I didn't check first.
That's like, you're in a safe space, Lisa. It's okay. We can talk about it. That are some of the Adobe audience. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I could have bought, I don't know, a drink at Starbucks or something.
Brilliant.
All right.
Behance is what, again, that's just to put that out as well. If you're kind of new to Behance, that is the awesome thing, because obviously you have loads of profiles and people can create their work, but you also have a lot of fonts that typographers that they've used. So you can download fonts and you can use examples of them. And obviously there's always a license to come with it, but definitely for the guys in the chat, explore on Behance and have a look at different fonts and things you can be used for your own design work. So get creating.
So we could try this too, which is a little more masculine. And since it's more masculine, I highly doubt they would want a cursive fabulous font. Maybe they want something like, nope, it's not in there. Maybe a Dido at a much smaller size.
I can almost like that design is amazing. My brain now is thinking the whole production. If this was like a print, it's hard to like tell a print guy what digital is, because my brain's thinking, that could be amazing if it's like embossed or like gold foil or like a nice without geeking out too much on the print things. But yeah, it looks like a beautiful sort of like shape and design you've got there. Really nice.
Yeah. So this one then looks pretty, but not like too pretty. And another way too to help it, to make it less, I guess, feminine, is all caps. Usually pretty much helps to solve that problem.
Do you ever sort of justify? I mean, I always find like it's a bit of a I don't say it's cheap, but it's quite a nice way of if you're kind of stuck when you do caps and you think it's a little bit too maybe not as elegant, you can sort of justify and space out. Like, you know, like when you double click and then you can use it. That's
use a little bit of kerning. I think kerning's the right word.
Like, there we go. And it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's nice because you can only really do this in side of. You can do it a little bit to some degree in Photoshop. I think it has some of these commands. So
they do, but you made a really good point before. Like again, when we're doing with fonts and text in particular, like InDesign is probably like the ideal where you would maybe create your graphics in Photoshop, Illustrator, and then you put it in InDesign, and then you can add on top the text, because you do. I mean, I'm definitely guilty. Like when I first started out, of me doing text in Photoshop, and then when you do like a print, it's a slightly weirdly pixelated or like a weird nudge. But yeah, that's again, this is the whole part of learning, right? And experimenting and seeing where you can what you can do. So it's all good.
All right, here's our last one. I'm just gonna say a no on the last one. I didn't really like this one for digital. But again, you won't really know until you kind of try these out. So if we're like, you know, I liked one of the past ones, I don't really want to bother with doing all this work. You could just go up to window. Where's history? Maybe that's on the other one. We can Control Z till we get back to the one we want.
What could be awesome as well, maybe if you did like, just putting out as an idea, but if you had duplicate pages and we had a few options, and then maybe our audience could sort of see, or maybe even choose which ones they like as a preference, because everyone's got their own. I mean, my personal favorite has to be that first one you did, which was pretty awesome, the gold and the blue. But maybe if we had a few options that we can kind of pick, that'd be quite, just an idea, quite nice.
Let them vote.
Exactly. People have spoken. Maybe.
All right.
We got some good vibes as well from your design stuff. We've got Aniki who said that design is fun and she loves the colors. So all positive in the chat. Keep them coming, guys.
All right. So here was, I think this was the second one. I'll just kind of nudge it over. And then the first one.
It's got like a spacey kind of feel, doesn't it? I don't know. I feel like I'm just like.
This one? The one you liked has the spacey feel, I think.
Spacey feel. Interstellar vibes.
Interstellar vibes.
Brilliant film. Better face.
Let's see. There we go. That was the one that needed the box.
There we go.
I guess I could just.
We've got Voodoo so that she can actually make a poll on the different variants. So variations. So once we've got our options, we'll get a poll in there, and you guys can obviously decide which one is what's your go-to, what's sticking out for you, what would you purchase personally. So there we go. We've got a nice question here actually for you, Lisa, from Kevin. He said, have you ever put two, and I imagine this is for on your website, have you ever put two of the same products but like maybe a slight variant of the covers? So maybe that's like the same background but different font, or vice versa, or is it usually each product is kind of standalone different, would you say?
Every product is standalone different, only because I feel like when I do that, I feel like I've lied to people. So what I'll do instead is I would put out this planner, but with 5 cover options. So you can pick and choose your options. And then like maybe one will be totally purple, one will be completely green. And then that way you could just say, oh, you know what? I really just want to make all of the colors inside green to match this cover instead of having to buy a whole nother product.
Do you always tend like you find like a sort of maybe like a hot favorite that always tends to kind of go off the shelves, like in terms of digital shelves, but like in terms of like, is there usually like a sort of favorite color that people tends to go for your customers? A go-to favorite?
You know, I don't really poll my customers. I would probably know the answer if I did. Because I always like make things that I like. I think probably pink is the most popular color that I do. So I probably just attract more people that like pink versus like I try to help them by creating something in pink.
Nice.
Which would possibly be the nicer thing to do.
No, but I guess, I mean, I think we spoke about it yesterday as well. Like color is one of those ones where, I mean, we could definitely go off piece here, but there's so many different emotions that with color, right? And again, how you're feeling, maybe in the mood of the day, right? Of how you're feeling. I mean, I'm probably feeling like quite orange, so that's my vibe for today. But yeah, everyone's got a sort of different sort of color vibe, depending on what they're feeling that day. But yeah, if pink works for you, then it's all good. All good.
You like designing in orange or only your personal stuff?
Oh, I mean, if I can imagine, I get a client and say, right, our brand guidelines are strictly blue and gold, and I put an orange in there just to mix things up. But I mean, I if it was more like a self-directed project, which I work on quite a lot of self-directed stuff, I like an orange. I feel like it's just good vibes. It's vibrant, like a nice orange and maybe like black text on top. It can kind of pokes out. So yeah, it's a bit out there, but it's cool. Feels more fresh.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
it's different.
We could do like a little business. You have your pink stuff and I have the orange and black, and we can just combine like we have like our own separate ones and combine like a master planning session. Pink cover, orange pages. I don't know how that'll go down, but who knows?
I think that's what we did, right?
Yeah, and we kind of spaced out, I think, the planner, but yeah, it's looking nice. Right. Do you know what I did think? This is a crazy idea. I'm just putting out that. So you got your cover. If it was a print, you can imagine on that previous one you had with the slits and then going down, you could have, I know some moleskins tend to have like almost like a pocket. So you can put like little notes. So that slit one could be quite, if it was like a print.
Oh
one.
Yeah. A physical.
Yeah, exactly. Like a little slit design. There we go. You can make it happen now in production. See where it goes.
Your print brain in action.
It's like print versus digital. I love it. It's so good.
Let's see. Do I like another font? I don't know if I have another favorite font. Probably Poppins. It's like a nice generic sans serif.
Just to say again, for those of you just maybe perhaps just joined our live, obviously big welcome. And today we've obviously got our Lisa, who's a YouTuber, course creator, and also graphic designer. And we're in the process of designing our planner. We've used a bit of Photoshop and now we're in InDesign. So a massive welcome if you just joined us. And yeah, we're looking at some nice, cool cover options.
All right. So we have one. This is your favorite. And then we have this one, which I didn't really do right. This is the one where it's just naturally meant to like put some text in here. And then over here, we have the one that could easily be converted into pocket folders.
Yep. There we go. I mean, that middle one would be a bit awkward, but you know, it's all good. Each their own.
Yeah.
That last one.
And then we have the last one, which is, I guess we'd call these triangles.
Yeah, like pyramids, I guess. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice pattern. I like it. I mean, that would work on a suit quite nicely.
Yeah.
Some sort of fashion material.
So now let's just assume that, I don't know, that this one wins. This one wins. You're going to have to create, I'm just going to duplicate spread. You're going to have to create the back end. So the back cover is going to look just like the front. Usually what I do is I'll just take the name off and I'll flip this over here. And then we'll take this and I will just transform this and flip it horizontal. and then drop it over here. So then in theory, it kind of looks like you just closed your planner and we're now looking at the back. So you can actually magical. Stick a logo here too.
Love that. We've actually got our poll up as well now, actually, which is great on the chat. So again, we're going to have some people voting on that, which is great. Just for a recap, do you want to go through your front four and then we can just see exactly what each one is, just so our chat can have a view so we know.
Here's the space cosmic one.
Nice.
Here's the empty white space in the middle one.
Option 2.
Pocket folder 3. And pyramid triangles for 4. There we go.
Some awesome variants for you guys to vote for. So yeah, get those going and we can I'll share them directly with Lisa once we've all voted. So happy voting.
I didn't save this file. Hold on.
There we go.
File save as.
To be fair, I think we spoke about yesterday. It's such a good, I guess, routine of just kind of getting into just say. But then we discovered obviously autosave as well. That was a game changer.
Oh right. There's an autosave. Yeah, maybe I should change mine every 5. I was saying too, like nothing really crashes on this machine anymore now that I have more memory. I think the lack of memory is what caused all of my previous crashes.
Oh, Lisa, you've jinxed it now. You can't say things like that. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's all good for you, but yeah, you never know. Like my brain has to be, especially if I'm designing on big projects, I will save on computer and then just for peace of mind, Google Docs or any other doc system. But everyone's got their own kind of method of working, but as long as it's saved, it's all good.
Now, do you use a physical external drive?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, do you know what the irony is? It's actually, guess what color it is? Can you guess what color?
Is it orange?
It is, and that's no one ever lies. We can actually see I'm actually telling the truth when I say what the favorite color is. It's an orange one. So there we go.
But how often do you like remember to back up to that? Because you have to like physically push the files there, right?
You're gonna think I'm a real geek. Every job I do, I will save. But I do variants. So like if I'm making a book, say for example, I've got at least version 12, just so I can always go back to maybe the first version 4 and seeing what options been made. Because with clients, you have back and forths, and it's just for peace of mind. But to be fair, university, and maybe for those in the chat who similar situation, uni kind of teaches that method of having to save regularly, and like because you never know, especially with uni, if something goes missing, you're like, oh my goodness, I spent ages. So it's almost like learning the hard way, and then when you get older, it's like, okay, yeah, I know now to just back up and save for peace of mind. This happened to me a few times.
You're a student, can't you just say like the computer crashed?
The dog ate it. Just the dog ate the hard drive. I hope not.
Yeah, I'll need an extra day.
In Bart Simpson land maybe, but who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I'm loving the variant. So now you've obviously looked at the back. You did the back version, so you flipped it.
So the back version, yeah. So we'll just whatever wins, we'll make that the back version, and then we'll move them into our master file. Do we have the results?
We've just said we've got video. Can we have one last check through again so we can go through 1 to 4?
Oh, sure.
If you just go through,
so here is number 1, space cosmic area. That's what I think space looks like. I don't know. Here is the white in the middle. Here's the pocket folder version. And here are the triangle pyramids.
Nice. So 1 to 4.
Space. Yeah, I feel like once we go to Mars, like people are just traveling through space. That's what it's going to look like
with their fabulous planner, right? They're going to have the fabulous planner. Brilliant. That'd be amazing.
I feel like there should be like glitter everywhere in the universe.
I mean, that'd be amazing. Why not? Just like glitter pens, and we can just do all sorts. But again, like it's amazing. Like for me, that cover, I feel like there is like gold glitter in the middle of that cover version you've got. Is that cover 1? Option 1.
That's option 1. It should be noted too, when you have gold foiling in the digital file and you go to print this, it will look awful. It will not look pretty like glitter. It won't look like gold foiling. If you want gold foiling, you really need to have the printer put gold foiling physically on whatever document you want to do. That's the way to do gold foiling. Because I've seen some people send this to the printer and then they come back to me and they're like, it doesn't look right. And I'm like, that's because I told you it's only for digital. It does not work for print.
That's
at least I think so. You're the print expert.
No, that's a really good point. And I always find as well, like it's so important to have quite a nice relationship with the production or the printers you work with, because say, for example, you're doing a book or cover, it's kind of a sense of, it's always good to get mock-ups or get, a first print run, especially if you're doing, 100 copies, because nothing worse than just going straight to production and not having an idea of just the first, how it's come out. And also it might not be exactly what you thought it could be. So that's also why doing tests are nice. I've done a few full prints before where you do layering, and obviously, production is really good because they obviously tell you exactly what you would need to send it in and how you send it. So, don't let these kind of, again, for those in the chat, hopefully scare you too much, because there's always ways of finding out how things work. And usually a good printer will always kind of, take the time out to help you and tell you what you need in terms of format. So don't think it was a daunting experience, because it's all good. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think my first print experience too, I forgot to put a tab in there. And so I told the printer, and I'd gotten proofs back and everything looked great. And I'm like, oh, I forgot this one tab. And I said, throw this tab in. And we had different ideas on the definition of a tab. And so when you have a 2-page spread for a calendar, you expect the left half of January on the left and the right half of January on the right. Well, the way he put the tab in, it inserted one odd page. And so then I had the left part of February on the left, or the end of February, and the new part of March on the right. So they were, I had to throw all of those planners away. So any change, I think it doesn't matter how much it costs, just order a proof.
Definitely. That is proof for our friends. It's just it keeps your sanity in check. I always find for any design. And again, as well, it's nice to see that sample, right, of something tactile before you press the big red button and then, create 500 copies.
Yeah. And sometimes I've had people make mistakes too, where they're like, well, they sent me a PDF of the preview. I'm like, it's just not the same.
Yeah, it's not what I'd imagine it to be. But yeah, no, having a good relationship with your printers will always benefit you, especially if you're in the print world. So there we go, some good tips.
All right. So I would say too, a lot of people ask me where to get these printed. There's actually a tutorial on my site. You could do Vervante. That's the #1 printer I recommend for planners. They specialize in planners, and they will do print on demand for certain styles. So if you're worried about cash outlay, because it was pretty painful to throw all of those broken, incorrect planners away, you could do print on demand.
Nice. We've got some really good questions actually so a question for Kevin. He said, so again, and it's a good point, most printers will do color profiles and templates available on the website. So, always have a good checkout. A good printer will always have examples of what, things would look like, and they'll be willing to do that. He's asked you, do you have a set of favorite printers perhaps that you kind of go to, or like you kind of, for your side? And you, Lisa, how do you?
It's definitely Vervante. Because one, she understands my business model. We actually talk a lot. So she's familiar with my channel. And if you go there and say that I sent you, she's super nice too. She'll actually spend a good 30 minutes or an hour on the phone with you, just talking about your project, which I don't think any other printer would do, especially print on demand. They're like, we don't have time, just send over your file.
Amazing. And that, even just like that basic people relation, right? You just have a good vibe when you can know they don't mind taking the time out to discuss it with you. And you feel better in just wanting to, trust these people with your designs and work. Amazing. Yeah.
And plus she'll package it, because a lot of things now, especially with planners, when you're selling, people, they say, I can't remember what the stat was, but like 60% of repurchases are based on packaging, not the actual product. People like that experience of like, the box is so pretty. Oh my God, the tissue paper is amazing. They're like, and it came with this ribbon and these cute little stickers inside. And you may have spent 90% of your time on the interior, but it's really the packaging that a lot of people like love. There's nothing worse than like ordering something expensive and then having it arrive in like a USPS mailer and there's no label. It's like the box is bent and you're like, what is this?
That could be like a super, I imagine those boxes, maybe it's just any brand that do it, but just a box where they're so distinctive, they don't even need a label anymore. It's just like an iconic shape or color. It's like, these guys are pretty cool at what they do. It's just like, I don't even need to give you it's like almost like very futuristic way of thinking, but that's all good. But yeah, like you said before, having that good relationship with a printer, it will benefit you. So that's good to know. We've got actually as well, we've got our wonderful Vida who's put a link in to the chat for your favorite printers. So hopefully, cool. Check that person out, and then that will help as well. So let's get cracking back into design.
All right. So which cover am I going with?
I think we're still waiting on the polls, but they're still coming in. But whilst you're doing that, perhaps we can sort of still keep cracking through, and then when it comes in, I can.
So we do need the cover to go on to the next step.
Okay, no pressure. Well, what's your vibe telling you that you would like to go with?
I like 1 or 2, either one. I might feel like I like 2 a little better. But we can do some things while we're waiting for the poll. So we can do a couple things. So let's go back to the other file and we're going to go up to the home. So we're going to actually add the text. So you're going to over here just to the type tool and you're going to just draw a text box. You're just going to try to guesstimate where it is going to fill up that whole tab. Because remember, when we create these hyperlinks, when people click it, you'll notice when people don't create their digital planners correctly and you're clicking on the tab and you're like, why isn't it moving? I'm like tabbing around here.
I'm pressing the screen itself.
Yeah. And it's because they've made the hyperlink like really itty bitty tiny or just the text. You want the hyperlink to be that whole box. So this is home.
By the way, Lisa, just on that, we actually have our polls now. So I know this is like 10 to hook stuff. So right. So what was your favorite? Just so I know, and then I can.
So my favorite was this one.
Is that number 2?
The second one, number 2.
Ooh, okay. So yeah, in 43%, we've got number 2. So that's the highest.
Oh.
And then we've got third in second place, and then first. So there we go. So actually, yeah, everyone's gone with your favorite one. You've given them the vibes, Lisa, to go for your one. So it's all good.
All right. So we're going to change this a little bit then. We're going to go with this one. Make this just a little bigger.
That's interesting, the polls on that, because maybe I guess each one of those options had a lot happening, and then this is the one where it's a bit more breathing space. So maybe that's the vibe today of the chat. Everyone's in a bit more, we need more space, we're chilled, relaxed. So good energy.
I think there's some people that like that minimalist design, maybe.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm up for that one as well.
So let's go back up here. I really like, I guess one of my favorite sans serif text is Nutraface text, mostly because this font is like crazy expensive. I think it's like one of those $375 fonts. So not a lot of people have it. So you can feel fairly confident when you use it that you won't see it everywhere.
I always hope for a price like that, I hope it comes with different weights. It's just regular. That's it. It's just so bespoke. It's just there'd be an italic in there somewhere. But
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a bunch of weights over here.
Nice.
All right. So just make this a little smaller.
That was a really nice comment, actually, from Vudi. That's a good point. So yeah, it gives you mind room to breathe and make it your own. So yeah, it's that space that you can kind of add a lot and yeah, make it more bespoke to you. So
and look at that, we already did the back cover.
Right.
So you're gonna stick this over here. We're gonna move this page. And if you've never used move pages, you can't move pages between any documents. It can only be the documents that are actually open on Adobe InDesign. So over here, you'll see the options. We'll say over here, we want it before page 1 because it is the front cover. So we're going to move that. And we're going to say, okay. And so when we go back over here, we will magically now see our page over here. So we need to apply this background over here. And you can.
Like our book's on a nice jazzy background there, like a marble sort of.
Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
So we're going to override this master page just so we can make this background a little smaller. There we go. All right, so now we have our cover. So let's go back to what we were doing before, which is we were putting in the text. So this is the question that people asked yesterday where we kind of left them hanging was how do you create those tabs? So that's what we're doing here. I like to use a sans serif font just because the serif fonts are just more, they're just harder to read inside of here. I mean, it's personal preference. Some people don't do that just for style. And we're going to make this white so it's more legible. We're going to use Poppins. That's kind of like my favorite go-to font for sans serif. And we're also going to put this down here in the middle.
It's a strong name, by the way. Poppins is popping, isn't it?
Poppins.
So there we go.
Mary Poppins.
Was that a British joke? I don't know if that was. There we go.
All right. Poppins. We can try light to see if that looks a little better. Yeah. I feel like that's okay. All right.
On that topic of just I was gonna say on sans serif, I mean, get in the chat, you know, are you a serif person? Are you a sans serif person? I mean, that is such a big question, and obviously it depends on what you're working for. But is there like a preference that you would kind of go to if you were given the option for design? Are you a sans serif? Get it in the chat, and then I'll share that with Lisa so we can see the difference.
All right. And then goals, and I said this was annual. And we have that there. All right. So we're done with the top. So now we're going to make some fonts for the right. So it's possible you could put the whole word January in there. I feel like that's a little silly. It's going to be really hard to read. We're just going to tilt this so it's 90 degrees. And we obviously don't need this that big. That pretty much takes up that text box. Now, the only problem is this is probably too big, this font or this size. So we're just going to knock it down a little bit. There we go. And then we're just going to copy and paste this. And we're just going to keep going all the way down.
It's interesting. We've like date. I don't know if you can find this, but I guess I mean I work with a lot of clients in the US, and the date order of how obviously month and the year. Am I getting that right? A month, the day, and the year. Obviously, in England we do it in a certain way. Obviously, day, month, year. And if I'm right in saying it's sometimes in the US or in different parts, it's like the year first and then the month and day. So it can be a bit distorting because you think, hang on, there's 13 months in a year, 13 months in a year.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
We only do the month first, or maybe the year first. The day first, no one in the US does that.
Tomato, right? That's the difference. Difference is good though. We're good for it.
Well,
yeah,
it does
can
get
confusing
with those single digits.
Especially invoicing. You don't want to get those 2 days. There we go.
Yeah, sometimes whenever I'm putting something out on social media, when I have an international, I guess anytime you could have an international audience, I actually just write out the whole word. People are like, why did you write the word August? Because no one gets confused. No one's like, is August really mean June?
True. That's a good point. That's a very good point. No, it just keeps everything a bit more just to the point, right? And you know what's working.
Right.
I actually got a question for you whilst you're doing that. Actually, it's a bit kind of going back to your business and how you started. Is there any tips that you would give, perhaps for those who are obviously joining today, who have seen your tutorial from yesterday and a bit today, and then thought, I want to maybe do something similar? Have you got any sort of starting out tips that you could, any golden gems you can give to them in terms of how you started out?
I mean, my biggest tip is always don't be debt free. And have a good cushion, because you just never know how long it will take you. And you might be quitting something great right at like the 2-week mark before you hit it big, because you just didn't save enough money for buffer. And you watch some crazy woman's story who said she made $1 million in 3 days with cryptocurrency. So, just try to be, that's great if that happens to you. I hope it does. But just assume you might be more like me, where it could take you 2 to 2.5 years to build your income back up. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is longevity. Sometimes just being out here in the space, it takes a while for people to find you. And then they might find you and you're like, I had to go back to my job at whatever corporate America where you maybe weren't happy.
That's a really good point. There's been a few, without getting too political on it, but like the idea, obviously, during lockdown, people have started a lot more businesses sort of at home. And that's a really good point. I mean, the idea of obviously longevity, and, sometimes it might take you 5 months to absolutely thrive, or it depends on how long you need. And it very much depends on that individual. But I always think myself as a bit of a tip is just the idea of just being consistent and just trying to just keep doing it, whether it takes, a bit longer than you expected, as long as you're actually active in that space. And just teaching your brain as well, just educating yourself just more and more on different things. I think that just keeps things a bit more fresh, a bit more afloat. And actually just on that topic of learning, again, this is why things like Adobe Live is amazing, because obviously you can, watch tutorials and you can learn a bit more. So if you're kind of starting out and wanting to do something similar to what Lisa's doing, definitely reach out to Lisa. I'm sure she'll be happy to help. But then also, watch some tutorials on different programs as well. And that hopefully, enhance your skill and only enrich you as a designer. So there we go. Little gems at you.
Yeah. I think you should really understand your space. So if I was doing client work, I wouldn't even bother with a website. Like, you don't need a website. I think I see people wasting a lot of time on things that won't apply to their business. You could be a really great freelancer. All you need is referrals. You don't need a fancy website. You don't need funnels. You don't need lead magnets, right? You just need to be a really good people person so that people give you referrals.
That's a good point. I mean, obviously the skills and it's funny you mentioned that, because my brain always tells me it's in two parts, right? Like, you got to be obviously good at what you do and the skills, but then there's that human element to it as well. Having a conversation and being able to, confidence, obviously that's a different thing, because not everyone is confident on first glance, but just being able to just feel, be human about things. And I think people tend to resonate a bit more with that. So yeah, I can totally relate what you mean on that. There's a question actually here for you, and it's kind of go back to what you said before, and it's by Rudy. What did you mean by don't be debt free? Just so for anyone who
wants to debt free. I think like debt is crushing. Like, I think it's hard to be creative, just in my mind. I think, and I used to have $190,000 of debt because I had a lot of fun in my 20s. Like, I remember if there was like a Thursday night and my friend Natasha, and she's French, she's like, there is a majorly awesome party happening in Malaysia. And I lived in Chicago at the time. And I'm like, okay. She's like, this Saturday. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I could swing that. She's like, just go to the airport. Don't think about it. And so, like, if there was a party, I was there. I literally I'll never have a midlife crisis. Like, everything I wanted to do in my 20s, I did. So anyways, I had a lot of debt from having so much fun. And so it took me years, like 7.5 years, to pay that debt off. I mean, I could have bought a house, right? But my point is, because I had that debt, I didn't start my business 7.5 years earlier, because I don't think you can, my philosophy is, I don't think you can pay off debt and start a new business right away, because there's usually always a dip in your revenue versus like smooth sailing. So it's hard to be creative when you're stressed about money, in my opinion.
It's hard. No, I mean, that's an interesting point. I mean, money, obviously finance, right, as a whole, especially if you're like, I mean, for my business, obviously I'm a freelancer, those are the kind of elements that obviously it can keep you up at night, right? And you can kind of go a bit crazy thinking about it. But I guess it's kind of, for me, it's understanding levels of priority and kind of knowing, like, I guess obviously when you're freelance or even just a business owner, like, it's not enough just to be creative. You almost need that sort of admin brain as well, and the idea of being strategic and logical of your thinking. And sometimes you have to outsource. Like, I know, I'll put it out there as a massive disclaimer, like with finance, I have to have an accountant, because there's certain things that I know that's not my skill set, it's not my strength, but you can always, collaborate or outsource. So don't feel like you have to kind of know all the answers in order to be like the greatest freelancer or designer. But yeah, obviously, you can outsource and do it. But yeah, that's a good point you mentioned about the whole finance, because that can also dawn on it. And that should never crush your creativity. Like, that should always be, at the forefront if possible.
Totally. All right. So I've done all of the text. So the next thing that we're going to do is these pages down here at the bottom. We're going to apply master pages to them. So this first one, we don't need home, because when people click home, it really goes here. The only case you might need home is if you're going to put like a flowery introduction, or you're going to put welcome to my planner or something like that. So, okay. So let's just assume maybe we want to put that in there because you want to say something nice. So we could do that here. Over here, the next one would be your goals page. And then the next one will be annual. And to apply master pages, it's super simple. You just literally drag and drop onto that page. So if you're never sure what master page is applied, I mean, InDesign is pretty easy. it tells you right here, it gives you a big letter A. Or if you hover over it, it will say B-goals applied. And that's the master page. And so that's that numbering system. So that's why I said to use 1, 2, 3, 4 for the months, because it's going to be much easier for you later on when you do this.
That's a good tip, very good tip, especially on the masters, because like you said, master, it will save you so much time, right? Rather than every single page, you just have that master and it's just peace of mind. So good shout.
And literally you cannot create this without master pages. Digital planners won't work. I mean, I guess it's possible, but it would take you so much longer to do this without master pages. Okay, A, B, C. We don't need white pages or background. That's only for you. Like when I sell these planners, templates, in case you want to use that to make something else that I haven't thought of. So right after annual, we're going to stick January. And then we're going to put February. And you know where this is going. We're going to do March. Then we're going to do April. Then we're going to do May. And then we're going to do...
I think we said this yesterday, but like even going through this now and going through the months, it makes you realize how quick this year is. This year is going already. It's like, how are we in August already? Right? Things go quicker in the Adobe hemisphere, but even outside of it, it's just still a crazy quick time this year is going. Yeah.
See, I told you that's why it's always better to have to be on the West Coast, because then when you talk to someone over in the East Coast, like in London, like you're like, oh, they have a whole new day to do more to-do list items.
That's a good point. Yeah. we sort of spoke about this again for those in the chat. We obviously Lisa's based in California. Am I right in saying? Hope that's correct.
San Diego.
Yeah, awesome. So in San Diego, and I'm based in London, and obviously time difference is a massive thing. So it's 9 o'clock over here. What time is it over there on yours?
It's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. So it's like, again, your day is just starting. Mine's is kind of like, just kind of ending. But it's amazing to, again, have these, again, even Adobe Live, it's just that beauty of having people from around the world connecting. And again, if you're kind of new to the experience, like hopefully, having a great time now, and, definitely check out some more and you can sort of see how other creatives all from around the world connect. So yeah, we got you covered. You're in a good safe space, and you're welcome.
All right. So if we double click on these pages, you're going to see the tabs are moving because different masters are applied. So you're going to come over here we're going to ignore this one because this is home. And we're going to come over to the cover, and we're going to right click on the cover, and we're going to go down here to where it says numbering and section options. Now, remember, really important, if you're joining late, over here in preferences in general, we change the page numbering to numbering and sections. If you have absolute numbering selected, this will not work. So over here, you're going to right click numbering and sections, and numbering and sections, you always want to start the page numbering at 1. Just that's always going to be the case. Over here, we had the letter A. I think you can see it on the master pages for home. So it's A dot. And then section marker is A dot, and then say include prefix when numbering pages. So when I add more pages here, it will be A.1, A.2, A.3, etc. So then I know what section I'm in, and it has numbered stuff afterwards, which is why this is called the numbering and section options. All right. Most people will probably never use this option. But now if you look down, it's labeled all those pages A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. Now, we said that this was home, so that's fine. We'll leave that here. But this is B, and this is our goals section. So we're going to right click here, numbering and sections, same thing, start page numbering at 1. This is B dot. Include prefix, and then just say, okay. Over here, this is C dot. So numbering and sections. So we're going to keep doing that all the way down. Include prefix. Okay. And then over here, wait, did I do that right? Here's our first page, which is January. So we're going to switch over to numbers. So numbering and section options, start page numbering at 1, 1 dot, 1 dot, include prefix. And here's February.
I can see on the chat. I don't know if you just joined in, but I mean, we got a few people. Well, So hey from London, from Fergie. So I've got a shout out, obviously being from London as well, right? So hey Fergie, thanks for joining. And again, if you just joined in, a massive welcome. And yeah, we are in the real flow now. Obviously working with Lisa, an amazing YouTuber, course creator, and graphic designer, and she's creating a lovely branded or designed planner. So using different programs, InDesign and Photoshop. So a massive welcome if you just joined us. And again, any questions, burning questions you want to ask, rather than relating to her process or her as a designer, put it in the chat, and I will share that directly with Lisa.
What's funny is that's it's pretty late there in London. Do you feel like someone being in London that all the times for online events are very US centric?
That's a good question. You know what, weirdly enough, during like this period of like obviously us being some lockdown, and obviously we're out of lockdown now, but I mean, I still work from home. A lot of the things I do watch is obviously it's usually pre-recorded, so you can kind of get away with kind of going back anytime. But if it's a live event, I think it ranges. Usually with clients, I mean, I will have to do maybe later in the evening, depending on where they're based in the US. But when you're freelance, flexibility needs to come as a second second superpower, isn't it? Or first superpower. But yeah, so you do find that late nights are maybe the norm. But to be fair, it's probably not the healthiest of things. So I try and calm down how much I work into late in the evening or stay out for events. I'm like, it better be a really good event to stay up until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
Right.
Otherwise I'm chilling out. It's all good.
Yeah,
same for you in the UK. Do you have like events in the UK that you watch? Because maybe it's the same for you, right? Time difference.
I have never seen anyone from the UK that I've followed. Like, not that I'm anti-UK, I just haven't in the things that I follow and the things that I do. There hasn't really been someone. There's a lot of people from Australia, and I see them flexing their time for the US.
At least we need to educate you on the London. There's a lot happening on these sides of the on the spectrum. There's a few. I mean, one little, again, perhaps put it in the link. Is the Dots is quite a really awesome platform. There's a lot of awesome designers from the UK there. And we have, again, loads of creative blogs that are kind of like London based. And to be honest, I feel like during this period of, lockdown, self-reflection, there's a lot of people kind of like connecting more further than they probably would because they're at home, they've got more time. So, I mean, I'm definitely been connecting a lot of people in the US, and I've only been out there once, but again, it's awesome of connecting people from different parts of the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was much more, I remember in my last corporate job, they put me in charge of a global payroll rollout. And I had meetings at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and then 3 during the day. And I was like, I'm so tired. But like, I could not stop looking at my calendar to see when the next meeting was, because it was really hard to figure it out and know where we're to be when.
Good point. Gareth's made a really good point, actually. Now that makes total sense. Of course it does. So he said, I think the times work out well for us based in the UK, because obviously events that happen, your time during the day, it's evening for us. So obviously it's not a working time. So in a way that makes sense. You can kind of chill out and watch. And to be fair, I mean, Insta Live and loads of things are good for that as well. So there are some perks, obviously, to maybe doing in the evenings where you can be a bit more downtime, a bit more chilled, on the sofa, maybe with jammies and just watch a good talk rather than feeling you got doing your lunch break. So yeah, good shout, Gareth, on that. And then just to add as well, Fergie said as well, there's a lot of UK talent in design. There definitely is. Obviously being slightly biased from the UK, but there definitely is. So again, the world is way too big just to kind of stay in your own sector. Like, you've got to explore. And again, with Adobe Live, you're going to find there's so many people from different parts of the world. So definitely explore and do it. So it's all good.
All right. So we've numbered and sectioned everything. So you can double check, make sure that whatever letter is showing up here for your master pages matches what you see down here for the numbering in section. So you'll notice that it just says 5.1. It doesn't say 5.2, anything else, because we haven't added any pages yet. So we just want to make sure. So we have 5, we have 6, we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we're going to go back up. Really important too. Over here on these options, on that first page, I did override all master page options. If you do that, from this point on, your file will not work. You cannot override any master page items at all. Otherwise, those hyperlinks will be broken and they just won't work. So let's go back up here to home. So what we're going to do is we're going to hyperlink this. So you're going to right click on this and you're going to go to hyperlink. You're going to just say new hyperlink, really easy. You're going to hyperlink to a page. And then you're going to pick one of the pages inside of here. So home is going to go to A1 because that's the home. So it's already the default. We can just leave it, say, okay. Over here, goals, you're going to do, over here, goals, the text, you're going to right click, same thing. You're going to hyperlink, new hyperlink, and you're going to change it to B1 because B is goals down here. And you're going to say, okay. And so we're just going to keep doing this all the way down. So it's really important that you only put text on that first tab so you can copy and paste them. Otherwise, you're going to have to put hyperlinks in over and over and over again on each page. Because when you paste this over, it'll just take that hyperlink with you. So over here at C for January, we are going to hyperlink over to 1.1. And you don't have to worry about the other pages because when someone hits the hyperlink for January, they definitely want to go to the first page of January. They're not like, somebody put me in the middle of January. So
just to mess with my mind, I'm in a different month now.
So you don't have to worry that you don't have the other pages created.
Nice.
And what was this? March 3. And that's why we do everything by numbers, because now you don't have to think about it. You can just click the number that goes with it.
I love it. It's like there's a method to the madness, which is great. So it's all good. And even like, I mean, that's a good point. You mentioned yesterday you were labeling things on Photoshop and we were doing it. And again, it was almost like knowing, obviously you get to this stage eventually in your project where you need to refer back and connect your assets together. So having that almost like strategic plan of knowing from start to finish what you need to do. So again, these are like tips if you're just starting out, you know, really nice to kind of know where you can kind of have a plan of action and see it to fruition. So yeah, again, if you missed out on part 1 of Lisa's session, you know, definitely tune in perhaps after this, and you can kind of see it, I guess, in the way you're watching it going backwards. If you watched it today, watching tomorrow's one, but it can be like a start to finish or finish to start, either way, however you want to dress it up. But yeah, definitely check out because it was a good one yesterday. So it's all good.
I mean, how are your files perfect? Because like some of my older Photoshop files, there's so many layers. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on in this file.
You know, it's funny. There was a guy I used to work with in an advertising agency back in the day, and he was basically my boss at the time, and he had a very certain way of how he would label files and and you know, order things. And at the time, I mean, I was a young junior designer, and I used to think that was ridiculously like obsessive. But then, weirdly enough, the more I was working alongside him, I was kind of shadowing him, and my brain, as a default, started to kind of copy and replicate that. And now, I mean, my files has to be in a certain order, which might look a little bit maybe over the top, but again, it just makes life a bit easier. So I am one of those guys that like the desktop is like, it's in nicely neat. I can't stand the desktop like when it's scattered all over. But then everyone's got their own methods, right? Are you a scatterer on your desktop? No judgment there, Herod, by the way.
No, there's nothing on the desktop except the files we're using today.
Nice and clean. No,
I feel like that's something a lot of people. Are you a Windows or a Mac person?
I'm a Mac.
Oh, you're a Mac, yeah. I feel like Windows people do that more. I did that in Windows. I just like cluttered up the desktop.
I mean, it's like your sort of like childhood bedroom, and it's just like you've put all the toys and stuff in the closet, and then when you open it, it's like boom, it all comes like comes shoveling out like a crazy one. But yeah, everyone's got their. To be fair, actually, I have met people who, and I won't single them out at all, but like they have, even though it might look a bit crazy how they've put things on their desktop, they still have a method to it. So you might have certain things in certain corners of the screen, and again, another person looking in, it might look like this is absolute chaotic, but actually they've got a method. So each to their own, right? So yeah, no judgment here if you like to kind of have it all out in the open. It's all good.
Yeah, like it's not even worth it to hack into people's computer. Like when I see movies and they're like, they hacked into the computer and then they find the file they need in 2 seconds. I'm like, there's no way. No way. I can't even find my files sometimes.
Little disclaimer. We've actually got an interesting, so like Debbie said, she's definitely a no files on the desktop kind of person. Mac here, only screenshots, folders. So yeah, everyone's got their own method. Actually, funny enough, definitely going off piece slightly, but it's a funny one. We used to do like back at uni, like screenshot the desktop. So then you would have that. So you look as though if you like a little trick, a bit cheeky, but you'd almost like go on a computer and then onto a friend's computer, and then they assume it's their desktop, but actually it's a screenshot. So like clicking on things, and that's a bit like a rebel days. But anyway, went off piece there. There we go. Don't do that as an FYI, but just as a sort of fun
computer
tip
fun.
Computer fun. Yeah, it's all good. We like a bit of fun here at Adobe. It's cool.
So if you don't know what I'm doing, I'm just copying and pasting from each page, and then I'm just flipping the letters over here. This is the big question I get all the time. Which way should the letters face when they're vertical? On planners, 100%, you always have the text facing in. So the bottom is on over here. I've seen if someone is new to creating planners, I always know because they have the text facing the wrong way. So you always have to think of like logically, if you forget my rule, when I read from left to right, what should it look like? And if you have the text facing the opposite way, it's not correct, right? So always flip it around the other way.
Good shout. And to be fair, I guess if you're designing so much, and sometimes you almost get tunnel vision and you never know if this actually is the right way. So like maybe just getting someone else to kind of come in and say, no, that's probably not, or just an outsider looking in, just to maybe you can get a different thought of it. And when I've actually designed with Arabic before with some of the clients I've worked with, so and that's a completely different way because obviously it's not left to right, it's right to left. So you have to use like a different part of your brain when you're doing certain text, which that's for anyone in the chat who maybe worked with that before, you'll know what I mean by that, because that is a bit of a game changer.
Can you read Arabic?
No. I'm not going to try and pretend I can. It's like a copy dot that will come, and then you'll have like the English on the left and then the Arabic on the right. So you can marry up. So you know, like titles here, stand first and body copy and so forth. Might recognize certain symbols maybe, but that's my extensive knowledge of Arabic, if I can do any more.
I don't know, because I do calligraphy too, and I get requests all the time to do Arabic, and I'm like, I can't. Like, it's not that I don't want to. It's not going to look how you think it's going to look.
So you did calligraphy. That's a little, we didn't know that about you. I didn't know.
No?
So like, did you practice, like, did you do this like maybe when you're studying or like fairly recent, like calligraphy? Did you have fun with it?
No, everything I know, I just picked up on my own. So I just looked at calligraphy one day and I was like, that looks pretty. I wanted to do calligraphy when I was a kid, like draftsman stuff, and like go to school for that. And my dad was like, we're too poor for that. We weren't too poor. He just didn't feel like driving me because it was like after school to another place. And so he's like, well, you could just do that as an adult. And so,
you're never too old to learn, right?
So I just went online and I just watched YouTube videos, and there are tons of people that actually do it on Instagram. Like it's crazy. People love watching other people draw calligraphy. I've never seen anything like it. So, so I just taught myself calligraphy. Doing that now. And then I just watched, I just did wedding invitations for friends. A lot of people locally, well, before the pandemic, needed people who could do chalkboarding.
Okay.
So I do that too for menus.
Yes. I mean, that is a talent in itself, like calligraphy or being a typographer. It's just, everyone's got a few different skills, and like I've always found that kind of type of design just absolutely fascinating in terms of, calligraphy and being a typographer. Because that isn't it. So again, if there's any typographers in the group, like, take my hat off to you, because you guys are awesome. Very, very cool. And just as a heads up, we've got about maybe less than 8 minutes or so until we're going to jump into our artist spotlight. So obviously, hopefully you guys are all excited to find out who it is, because it is a really good one. So stay tuned. So in about 8 minutes time, we'll jump on the artist spotlight. So stay tuned.
All right, we're almost there. So Control A. Let's see.
Oh, we got a lovely comment actually here by Debbie. And I can totally agree. Watching other people work is soothing for some reason, especially calligraphy or cake decorating. There we go.
Oh yeah, cake decorating is fun. I'm not very good at it. I just do it for fun.
Still smiley face. That's what, 2 chocolate buttons for the eyes. That's my extensive cake decorating knowledge. But that's a nice way. And hopefully even just watching even today with obviously our amazing guest, just, kind of sitting back. And again, it's just, there's no pressure. You can talk, you can interact in the comments, but even if you just want to sit back and just watch and learn, that's the beauty of it. So soothing, relaxing, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, just good that you're here. So yeah, welcome.
All right, so this is the last one. I'm just gonna flip this around. So you can see, so a good thing too is if you are in view, I pretty much 99% of the time do view over print preview because I just don't like looking at all the boxes. However, if you have that on, you can't really see those dotted lines. So those dotted lines will indicate to you that it's a hyperlink and that it's on and that it's working. So that's why you want to make sure that you include all of those. Now over here at the very end, we're finally ready. We can add in our back cover page. So we'll just do file place or we could even just copy and paste it. It's not even that big of a deal. Oops, we're going to do move pages. And we're going to go ahead and go to that other document and we're going to move this to at the end of the document. You don't even have to think about it or coordinate color, like number of pages. That's all you have to do. And then when you go over here, you'll see that it's magically at the end. So that's all you have to do for setting up all the hyperlinks. So really quick, I'm going to save this file out. So what you're going to do is you're going to do file export and you're going to save this file out to, we'll just call it our, to test the links because we're not really done with it. The most important part here is the format. You need to pick Adobe PDF Interactive. If you pick Adobe PDF Print, it will obviously assume you want to do, just as it says, print it. It doesn't think anyone's going to interact with it. So make sure you have Adobe PDF Interactive chosen. We're going to hit save. So over here for compression, I usually leave it at automatic. It doesn't look too bad when you drop down to any of these. I leave JPEG quality at max, resolution 144. You probably don't need 300. I mean, I don't know how elaborate your design is, but usually 144 is more than sufficient. And then you're just going to click export. It's going to go through those pages. We don't have a lot of pages, so it's not going to take that long. Just remember, if you have a daily planner, which daily, just by the nature of the word, means there are 365 pages in it. Just be prepared to wait a while for your file to export because you have so many pages. I'm going to make this a little smaller so you can see it. But you can test this out inside of Adobe Acrobat before you even send it out to your iPad to test. But when you hover over anything that with a link, which I'm sure everybody knows because they've used Adobe before, you're going to see that it changes to a hand. So not a hand, little hand. So if I click February, we are magically on February. When I click August, we're magically on August. So the tabs have changed all around here. And that's kind of, that's the magic that you have now made happen by creating this section and numbering and creating those hyperlink to pages. So
amazing. Can we get like a full, can you go on, if you go on view, maybe do like an actual full screen mode and we can actually, can look at your designs in all its beauty. Yeah. So we go to view and then.
Where's full screen? Oh, there we go. Where it says the word full screen mode.
We try turning it on. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's great. I love the sort of marble. It's almost like a marble effect in that background with that one, but yeah, that's great. So no, it's nice to kind of see, obviously, like the process of it, you know, from start to finish. So
I think that's the big part when people see digital planners, they're like, how did they make those links work? Because it looks like it's magic and it's just a hyperlink to a place. It's just like when you create a website and you have anchors inside your page that it jumps to. It's the same thing.
Totally true. Amazing. Cool. Well, I think we're at that time now. We're going to actually probably jump into our artist spotlight. So I'm going to share screen on my side shortly. And then that way we can sort of jump in to see who is going to be our artist spotlight. And it is a good one. We have, hopefully you guys can see now. We have Holly Pixel. So amazing work by Holly, first of all. So Holly is a designer and the owner of Holly Pixel. So yeah, I mean, let's have a little go through, Lisa. We can sort of see some styles, what she's about. Just as a
Yeah.
little.
So, oh, go on. Sorry.
No, go for it. No, you tell me.
I was going to say her name is Holly McCage. So she's a friend of mine. She's probably one of the first people I met in the design space. And she was super friendly and super nice. And she's always helping me and sharing stuff with me. So yeah, so I wanted to spotlight her.
I called her Holly Pixels if her surname on her passport will be Pixels. So I do apologize.
Yeah. She's used to that.
To be fair, that's a strong surname if that is your name. But yeah, should we have a little go through some different bits and bobs? Let's have a look through gallery perhaps and just have a feel. So just to give it a
Oh, go on.
No, I was just going to say just a bit of context. So for those of you just kind of joining and seeing, Holly likes to create using the iPad, which is great. So it's the idea of being creative on the go, and you can see some really nice designs. What's your vibe, Lisa?
I was going to say Holly does what I cannot do. She is great at just drawing. Anything you want to have drawn, like a cute little wagon, a cute little dog, a cat, a home, some flowers. She can just create everything from scratch. And I find that so when we were talking about looking at stuff, I like calligraphy. I like watching Holly work. So you can see on her YouTube channel too, she will just show you how she creates stuff.
That's amazing. I mean, there's such an absolute skill. I mean, I did a bit of research before and I could see that she's got a lot of skills under her belt. She does screen printing, embroidery, photography. So that's the whole shebang. There's a lot of things happening. And I actually had a little browse on this, and this is for like any creator. I imagine it's like a great thing. Freebies, right? That's always a good one. So again, you guys can check the site out and you can see some really nice freebies to have a go through.
And she's good at hand lettering too. So I can do calligraphy. I can do the classic Spencerian. I can do modern calligraphy, but she does like the bounce lettering and, tons of different styles with letters. And I think that goes along with the fact that she can draw. And so it's another skill.
No, she's got some lovely, I mean, I've actually got her Instagram. You can see as well, her Instagram, some really nice illustrations that she's done. I mean, to be fair, I don't even know you could half of these stuff. I don't have an iPad, so I don't own, but again, seen some awesome tutorials on Adobe Live for it, but she has her own tutorials and I can see her stuff is absolutely incredible. What stands out for you, Lisa, on besides everything, obviously? Is anything that's like, oh, that's pretty cool?
Everything that is drawn, like everything like that little bloom cup, the word art there, living the dream at the bottom. Because I'm always fascinated, which I think a lot of people are just fascinated by things like you can't do. And just seeing someone take a blank page and then make it, look fabulous. You're like, wow, it looks like magic.
It's amazing. It's some really nice stuff. And what I like as well is the typography, the colors just work so in sync. I don't know what it is, but my vibe is telling me I feel like it's just in a candy store. Like the colors are just, it's all very sweet, kind of orientating in terms of like the pinks and the sort of purples. But I'm loving the colors. And actually I can see it's almost like think textures as well that's just applied. Yeah. Really, really nice work, Holly. So yeah.
And she creates brushes too. So like that word, like some of the word art, you can just have a brush. And so I think she has some tutorials that'll teach you how to create a brush for the iPad. So then you could make anything you draw, a line, letters, take on that glitter or foiling or whatever it is.
That's amazing. I think I saw was it on the Vault? She had some examples of where you can download brushes like watercolors. That's really, really cool. Yep. That's, to be fair, that again, the beauty of like with programs like Illustrator, you'll find like you always have obviously brushes that you can use, but then you can download, set up for Holly's website and you can use those brushes on different platforms. And if I'm right in saying she uses Procreate as an app to design. So have you used it before, Procreate?
Yeah. I mean, I can't do stuff with it, but yeah, I've used it.
I've never used it. It looks cool. It looks very, very cool.
So I think too, I mean, today, my advice would be to people, if you're good at drawing, I would learn how to draw on the iPad instead of learning how to draw on paper. I think there are so many people that are now learning, which there's nothing wrong with it, but they're learning how to take a picture of their stuff, try to scan it in, try to clean it up in Illustrator, right? Versus like, if you just create it digitally first, you don't have to do any of that stuff.
I'm a bit old school. I actually, there's something about I do like a quick like hand draw pen to paper, like even if it's like a moleskin, like a quick draw. And to be fair, everyone's got their own different methods, and to be fair, sometimes you might find it easy to jump straight onto digital. But I mean, my brain's a little bit. I have to have kind of pencil to paper, and then I can like jump online and do it. But again, everyone's got the kind of nice methods of working. But there's some really nice illustrations, really, really nice. Is there anything that stands out for you that we can have a click through on here that's like we can zoom a bit more in?
Yeah, I love all of them. There's I mostly love her the stuff that she draws just freehand. Like there on the left, the little chair and the sofa, the little house
these
stuff.
Are awesome.
Yeah. So those I think are from somebody else actually. So she's invited me to do it before. I just don't have time to. She's invited other artists into her shop. So then you get even more stuff, just kind of things that match her look and feel. So if you like that, then you can actually shop for a ton of different stuff here. And these are people that make stickers that could then be put inside planners.
Yeah, these are awesome. I love the texture she's put on. It's that effort of just adding things on top, like an extra texture. It kind of just brings everything up to life. Really nice. And I see what you mean about your coil. We've spoken from part one, but I can see she's added the similar
the faux coil.
The faux coil, which is great. Some really nice stuff. So a little look at any other, and the class as well. She hasn't really touched on that.
Yeah, she teaches classes too, how to use the iPad to do more things. And for people who like drawing, she teaches them how to draw, how to do some of that word art, iPad brush lettering.
Really, really nice.
Yeah.
I love that one there, obviously. Crazy as drug, I cannot live without it. But no, these are really, I mean, visually, like it's very engaging as well, isn't it? It's just, you kind of want to just keep staying on this page and just browsing through. And I can't keep click, like going through it and not click on this because my brain's telling me this looks awesome.
The play icon.
Yeah, definitely. This looks great. No, really, really, really nice. Really nice stuff. And actually, we get a feel as well about Holly, and you can see a bit more, information about what she's done. And I even like the tone of voice she's used as well with her about saying that she likes dogs and drawings and silly comedy shows, but it feels very lighthearted, which is nice. I think we spoke before, just that human element, right? Of just maybe not taking things too seriously and just being a bit more, relaxed in your approach, and people tend to really trust a bit more.
Yeah. And I can confirm she's just genuinely just a nice person. And super generous with her knowledge and everything else. She actually has, I don't think you can see it here. I don't know what it's under, but she actually has a store on Etsy too, where she sells things that she makes with her Glowforge. Have you used one? I've actually never used a Glowforge.
I'm not going to pretend like I know what that is.
It's a 3D printer.
I've used a 3D printer before, but okay, interesting. There we go. Technical terms.
I think there's a lot of people today that are making a lot of cute things with the Glowforge that, maybe are making businesses out of it.
Amazing. This is really cool. And again, it's similar. I can imagine like with your cover that we chose, like that style of font hair, that would work quite nicely, wouldn't it? Maybe with that little brush stroke in your work. But again, these are some really nice designs, and hopefully, those in the chat, you can get a feel for, definitely check out, we've got the link in there in our chat. You can get a feel for a bit more of Holly's stuff and have a little browse. And I think one more thing on bundles, actually. Let's have a look at these.
Yeah, because those brushes make it so like, even if you don't have great handwriting, if it's made with glitter, it just magically looks pretty.
I love that. It's like glitter for the win.
Right.
I love these. No, these are really, really cool. And again, it's like just reading through a bit of her bio, she's taken the time to do tutorials. And I mean, that's the whole point, whether it's tutorials on hair or, on Adobe Live, it's just the idea of keeping yourself active and learning, right? Just, there is no age to this. There's no limit. You can just learn at whatever age and however you feel comfortable. But it's a really nice thing to have on your website, a tutorial, and to take the time out. So, yeah, Holly, amazing. And Holly, it's not Holly Pixel. What was her surname again?
Holly McCage.
Holly McCage. Although Holly Pixels is also just as cool.
It's easier. I think Holly Pixels is easier to say. Right to the point too. Like, what does she do?
That's amazing. And just quickly, I even love like the way she's got the typographic, style and like how that's amazing. Again, and that was created on the iPad.
Yeah, and she's like you. She is classically professionally trained in graphic design. That's what she went to school for.
Amazing. So nice. So hopefully, yeah, definitely check see Holly's website out, and also her Instagram as well, because there's a lot happening. So perhaps we go back to your screen, and then we can have a look. We get to that point now where we can look a bit more of what we've done so far today. Maybe talk about yesterday as well briefly, and how it's kind of capped into today. And then kind of we can end by kind of giving a bit more about yourself, so people can kind of follow up after this as well to know more about yourself.
Sure.
Yeah. So we
all right,
share screen onto yours?
I'm back on.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so we are back here inside of Adobe InDesign. So let me just show you how to add pages. So we can close our cover options. We don't need that. And again, it's a space issue. So I'm always conscious of shutting everything down so I don't get anything stuck. And I think honestly, when you have more things open, it does contribute to possible crashes. The computer's this is too much.
Can't take this.
Right. Okay. So if we want to add some pages, so what is it? January, let's say we do a monthly spread here, but then we want to add some weeklies or dailies or whatever you want to add, or a goals sheet. So you're just going to right click, you're going to say insert pages. This is really, really important. Let's say we want to add 10 pages. You want to make sure it says insert pages after 1.1 using the master January. So the reason you're going to do that is because if we go to any of these pages, you want to make sure that the tab in theory is on the right side, right? So people are like, oh, I'm in January. Now, logically, this is the only part that's different from the real world. Logically, when you're in January and you flip over to the second page, you've taken that tab and you've moved it to the left side, right? And so in theory, February is on the right. People don't think like that. They're just like, oh, wait, am I in February? What month am I in, right? So this is the only exception to the rule. Just leave January up there through the whole month. Don't switch over until you go to February. That's the only part that's not the real life moving things over. But once you're in here, so we did not put the coil inside of the master page. And the reason we didn't put that in there is because you don't know what you're going to put on this page. So let's say on this page, I'm going to put pretty much everything. Everyone always puts you want to give people easy things so they get excited about the planner, right? So what's your name? People are really excited about they're like, I know my name, right?
You're like Holly Pixels, right? There we go.
Sometimes you'll put address, phone number. It's not likely someone's going to lose their digital planner file and someone's going to return it. So you wouldn't want to put that. Sometimes I put silly things like birthday. I put astrological sign, right? So it just has to be something really easy. Once you give people thought questions like, what's your goal? What's your word of the year? All of a sudden they're like, oh, I don't know. Let me Google that for 20 hours. They'll never go back into your planner. And then they'll probably just go buy a different planner that's way easier than your planner. So make these super, super easy questions, right? And I know it seems silly because you're like, why would they want to tell a planner what their birthday is? And there's people like doing this. So
it's a thing.
Make these easy questions. I promise this is the part of the planner that people always miss. Okay, let's go back up here. What font did I say I liked? I liked Poppins. You can make this anything you want, but usually I try to make it the same font as the tab. So everything kind of looks like it matches and goes together. And then I also try to match up the color as well. So over here we have, so now we can turn off all of these dotted lines and these text boxes if we don't like looking at them, which I don't. So I'm going to just go view over preview. So now we can just look at regular stuff. You can add lines in here. You could add a box for someone to write in. It doesn't really matter. Just remember that when people are writing with a stylus, especially for the first time, they're going to need way more space than they would on a piece of paper. They could cheat and just open something kind of stretch it out on the iPad. But if they're not really iPad savvy, they're just going to be like, this is too small. So whatever you think it should be, make it larger. because people will need that extra space. And then it gives them permission to write as big as they want, right? So usually what I do, I try to put like a nice picture here or something. So if we wanted to, we could put, I think I had saved a picture. Backgrounds. Yeah.
Like a blue cappuccino then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Never seen that before. It's cool.
So this isn't going to fit perfectly. So usually what I do is I just stretch this out to make it look like it's kind of going to fit. And then I send this to the back. And there we go.
It's always nice when you get like an image and you can see like that sort of, I always got dead space, but like negative space, but just negative space where you can kind of add things in there. It's like a nice kind of like, oh, cool, I've got some room. Let's put something else in there to make it work. And when it happens, like it's like a nice jigsaw kind of like piece to the puzzle. So yeah, I'm all about the that space in that bottom left corner.
So we're just going to nudge it over a little. So then it's kind of like, I have something pretty to look at. I'm going to write. I know I can just write in this little box, right? Or whatever you want to do. Over here on the left, this is where I'd usually put like your copyright. Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my planner. Again, at the beginning of the planner, make it super, super easy. The more complicated or the more difficult or philosophical you try to get, the quicker they're just going to throw your planner away. You can do that like later on. Or sometimes what I've done is I've done like an accompanying workbook to go with the planner, or an explanation or a guidebook or something else. And mostly because like the question I kept getting emails about, everyone's number one question is, how in the world do I open this? Right. And how do I use this file? Especially, you never know, you might be the first person they've ever bought a digital planner from. So you want to give them directions. So just so you know, there's a recent updates. GoodNotes has made it really easy. You used to have to tell people to save your file into iCloud or Google Drive or some sort of cloud space. Now, when you go into GoodNotes, it'll say email, and it'll have like a fake email, like Kieran.7492@goodnotes.com. You just write that down, you email yourself the file, and then when you open up GoodNotes, it will just magically be there. And you don't.
By the way, that's actually my email address. How did you know that email address? It's like a weird bad joke. Yeah.
I'll email him. All right, so
like
here's our goal section. Here you could put the annual. I like to put like 2022, like the whole year on the left, and then put like some area for goals on the right. So like, let's just try to put a few things, because I think we're going to run out of time. I'm not going to have enough time to do a whole monthly layout.
Well, I'd say we're at that point, maybe like about next 5 minutes or so, we'll get to that point where we can maybe do like a nice recap of what we've done. Okay. So yeah, about maybe 5-6 minutes or so.
So here's where, let's go back over here. I forgot.
It's crazy how quick time goes there, right? When you're in the Adobe Live hemisphere. But I mean, we've definitely mastered quite a lot, which has been great. So we'll say the next few minutes.
So we don't have our coils. So this is our blue coil on the left side, and this is our blue coil for the center. So you're going to take this over here. You have a loaded cursor. You're going to drop it down. You're going to guesstimate where the center of this page is, and we're going to drop it down. So I guesstimated wrong. So I'm going to move this over. And that's kind of where it's going to be.
Day now, guesstimate. Sorry, it's my word of the day. I do. That and magical.
So the reason we put it here instead of on the master page is if it's on the master page, then you'll have to override all master page items, which I told you never to do under any circumstances. And then that would have broken the link. So this way, you have the ability to put it in. Now it is kind of a pain because you have to keep putting it in on every page. Just make sure you get it in the right place that you want it. And then each page after that, I think most people know this, you want to make sure you use paste in place. Otherwise it might end up when people are flicking through, they're going to be like, oh, it's a little to the left. It's a little to the right. And like, they won't consciously know it. They'll just be like, something's a little off with this file. So
little nudge to the left. Yeah.
Right. But over here, so this is January. So if I was going to do a January layout, really easy, and I'll start you off, I would just put January up here at the top. And maybe this is the time where I might do a fancy script font, just because it doesn't really matter because it's just at the top. It's like a big header. So I might do 50 and I would stick that at the top over here.
Just a quick one, whilst you're doing that, just a note for our awesome audience, which is really just say we've got less than sort of, a few minutes. I mean, it's 5 minutes or so now, which is 10 minutes to say how time's gone so quick. So any last minute questions that, you would love to ask Lisa before, obviously we clock off, please get in the chat and I can run it through there. And then what we'll do is I'll say next 2 minutes or so, actually, maybe do like a nice recap of what we've kind of done, what we've learned. And then obviously, we can see a bit more about how we can reach out to know more about Lisa.
So I kind of like to just lay this over here. And then I like to put this here. So I always like to do a 2-page spread on the monthly, just because, like I said, people don't have a lot of space to write. And so if you make this 2 pages, it's going to take up more, it's going to give them more real estate. So just remember, when you have a 2-page spread, I don't know how do your calendars start, Karen? Ours always start on Sunday. Do yours start on Sunday or a Monday?
Oh my goodness me. I need to get my notepad now, which is buried on opposite next door room. Do you know what's really bad? I haven't actually even used my calendar recently. I've been using my my actual computer calendar, which is terrible. So on that topic of calendars are my friends, by the way. I just haven't used them in a while, so I wouldn't know. But you said Sundays where you
I always start with Sunday. So to me, intuitively, and I don't know, that's why I was asking, like, is it an American thing? I always like to start the week on Sunday. Also, another thing too, because like I was saying with Kieran, like, because he's over in London and it's nicer to be on the West Coast, because I'm like, I have the whole day. On Sunday, I'm like, oh my God, it's the start of a new week. But I'm like, oh, it's not Monday yet. Like, if you start the week for me on Monday, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not prepared. I'm like,
Monday's that day is like, it's gone too quick, right?
Yeah. Like, I'm so excited. The Adobe Live was Wednesday, Thursday. I was like, I can like wake up Monday panicked. And then Tuesday I can.
It's a nice plan. Like, you like plan for the plan. I mean, it's crazy how like time has gone so quick, but I guess we're at that point now. Perhaps do you want to do like maybe a recap of what we've done, maybe just over the space of the 2 days, and then I mean, it's again crazy. You almost need to plan for the planner, right? Just of how quickly things have gone. But just still a nice little recap for a few minutes, and then we can find out more about you.
Like we said at the beginning, so inside Photoshop, all we did is, if you go over to the layers panel, I created this background. I created these basically just white rectangles that are like pieces of paper. And then Kieran and I picked out some patterns that we liked for these top tabs. And then over here on the right, we created these January through December, and he helped me make the best drop shadows that we could make over here.
It was all you, Lisa. I just carried the bags, but it's all you.
And then we saved these out. So we kept moving these around, and we saved these out individually as JPEGs right here. So we had background JPEGs. So we had January, February, March at the back. I know it's hard to see. And then we took all of these and we put them into Adobe InDesign. And so we put them in here as master pages. So you can see the tabs sort of magically moving around. And then we added all of the pages down here. We created the cover. We voted on the best cover. And then we used that one. And then we went ahead and we created all of these pages down here so that we could do the section and the numbering, so that this could then direct the tabs at the top for the hyperlinks. So then we went back up here to home. We took each of these, we hyperlink these. This is another way you could test it. You could just say, go to destination, and it'll pop you onto that page. So you could test it inside of InDesign as well. And we hyperlinked everything out. We exported this. The most important part is you have to make sure to export this as Adobe Interactive, not print. And then we opened up inside of Acrobat. We clicked around to make sure it worked. And that was pretty much it. And then I showed you how to add extra pages and how to add your coil.
Amazing. So I feel like, again, I've educated myself, and I feel like our audience is hopefully educated in terms of like our process of how, and again, it's awesome to like see how creative operates and works. And, we've got a real insight into your world of how you plan. So, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to sort of see the progress start. And I guess for our audience, if they want to find a bit more about you, is there like, would you recommend like for your website or any social media that you like to sort of get out there so we can find you?
Yeah,
or website?
I'm pretty much on YouTube all the time. So I'm live streaming. I have 3 videos a week that I try to put out. So you find a bunch of tutorials out there. If you want to do, because we ran out of time to do the whole layout for January, you can join Planner Academy. And then I'll actually teach you every single thing step by step on how to create different layouts and also how to sell these planners so you can start making some money.
Awesome. I feel like our audience, again, like they've been educated. We were in that space where it's like, we've seen how you operate and work. And I have no doubt, well, I mean, through the comments as well, it's been all positive. So like they'll reach out to you and yeah, we can start seeing some actual planning being made, which is great. So just a little heads up, just to, stay tuned. We've got the XD Creative Challenge replay coming up, followed by Draw Along with Carl T. Webster at 2:30 Pacific time. Masterclass will not be airing tomorrow, but don't worry, guys, we've got you covered. It's all good. You can check out office hours from 2:30 p.m. to 3 o'clock, where they'll be showing you ways to explore and have fun in Photoshop and Fresco. So join us for some mental recharge and creative exploration. I mean, that just sounds awesome, right? So it's there's a lot happening there.
Sounds fun.
But Lisa, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure like hosting you over these 2 days. It's how have you found it all?
Yeah, this was great. I was super nervous. You jumped in. I'm so glad you were here. You know everything about InDesign and Photoshop. So I learned some shortcuts.
There we go. And hopefully our audience again have learned. I mean, that's again a massive thank you to our audience because obviously without you guys, it wouldn't be happening. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And I'm sure our audience have agreed as well. And a big thank you again, as always, to our Adobe team, keeping everything nice and safe. And yeah, we hope you feel nicely inspired, and I'm sure people will be reaching out to you very soon, Lisa. So yeah, it's a big goodbye for me, and thank you, Adobe guys. So see you very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.